Hello students, this is Mrs. Shweta Ladha from Ferguson College, Pune, your biology teacher. We had started with chapter 3, Inheritance and Variation, and we have finished lots of topics from this chapter. We have discussed with lot of definitions, then after that we discussed monohybrid cross, dihybrid cross, the Mendel's three laws, law of dominant, law of independent assortment and law of purity of gametes. We also discussed about what is backcross, test cross. After that, we studied about post-Mendelism, where we studied about codominance, incomplete dominance, and multiple allelism. If you remember, we had just started with pleiotropism. So what is pleiotropism? Here we are going to study the example of sickle cell anemia. Here there is a single gene which is going to affect many characters. So we will study about pleiotropism with the help of sickle cell anemia and its inheritance in detail today. Along with that, I will be teaching you structure of chromosome, types of chromosome, and distinguishing between X and Y chromosome. And after that, we'll study about few autosomal inheritance pattern in video speak as well as in ruling tongue. So let us begin with our PowerPoint presentation. So students, let us revise the introduction of pleiotropy. So in pleiotropy, you'll see that there is a single gene. This single gene, many traits. Here in this case, trait A, trait B and trait C. It is exactly opposite to multiple allelism. In multiple allelism, we had seen it in blood group, human blood group, ABO system. Many alleles affected one trait. Now when a single gene controls two or more different traits, it is called as a pleiotropic gene. Very important. This phenomenon, it is called as pleiotropy or it is termed as pleiotropism. According to Mendel, one gene controls one character, but here sometimes post-Mendelism it was proved that single gene, it produces two related or unrelated phenotypic expressions. For example, in sickle cell anemia. Let us see what happens in sickle cell anemia. Before that, let us understand the structure of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a conjugate protein made up of two parts. Heme means iron and globin means chain of amino acid, that is protein. And there are four chains as you can see in the picture. Alpha chain 1, alpha chain 2, beta chain 1, beta chain 2 along with the heme particle. So, four hemoglobin chains are there, the globin chains, two alpha chains, two beta chains are there in the hemoglobin along with iron. Sickle cell anemia, it is an autosomal recessive blood disorder caused due to mutation on autosome, chromosome number 11. Autosomal, I will again explain you in the next slide what is an autosome, which is responsible for somatic characters. This sickle cell anemia is caused due to mutation on chromosome number 11 and it is a recessive disorder. Recessive. Be shown only if it is in homozygous condition. It is caused due to point mutation, very important term. Where is the point mutation occurring? What is the result? It occurs in beta globulin chain, in this chain of the hemoglobin. At the sixth position, hydrophilic glutamic acid, it is replaced by hydrophobic valine amino acid. Let us see this in detail. So if you see in a normal DNA, for normal formation of hemoglobin, the codogen present on the DNA is CTC. Because of that, mRNA has codon GAG. And when GAG is there, glutamic acid, which is a hydrophilic amino acid, is there at sixth position. But because of point mutation, what is point mutation? You can see here, instead of AT, this one base pair, nucleotide base pair is altered, it becomes TA. So the codogen instead of CTC, it is becoming CAC. Listen carefully. What type of mutation is occurring? Point mutation. Which chromosome? Chromosome number 11. What happens? The codogen changes from CTC to CAC. And so what happens on the RNA? The codon becomes GUG instead of GAG. This change in one place at the nucleotide brings different amino acid. Instead of glutamic acid, now valine is brought. Now, if valine is placed at the sixth position, the entire structure of hemoglobin changes. Let us see what happens. The hemoglobin, the globin chain changes, and that's why the shape of the RBC changes. Normally, the RBC are oval in shape, biconcave, isn't it? Enucleated. But because of the change at the 6th position in the globin, beta globulin chain, the shape of the RBC become like a sickle. Marathi मध्ये विळी म्हणतो आपण. It becomes like a sickle. Now, as it is becoming like a sickle, it is not able to flow properly in the blood vessels and it starts clogging the blood vessels. So you can see this is a normal hemoglobin which is placed in the RBC biconcave disc, and here the abnormal hemoglobin, because of abnormal shape, sickle shape hemoglobin, it is not able to flow properly in the blood vessels. The other symptoms, other traits because of this are the person who is having sickle cell anemia shows anemic condition, anemia because less iron, because less shape, the shape of the hemoglobin is not proper, less iron, so anemic condition. I showed you how blood clogging occurs, plaques are formed, blood flow is obstructed, less supply of oxygen is given to the organs, so hypoxia. Hypo means less. Oxia means supply of oxygen. Less supply of oxygen is done. This person is supposed to get frequent infections. Swellings of hands and feet takes place. There is delayed growth or puberty. And there is frequent pain in the chest, abdomens and in the bones. So see, the change, the mutation at one gene is responsible for so many traits. Thus, it is an example of pleiotropy. Now let us see how it is inherited, what are the genotypes and what are the phenotypes. If suppose it is the genotype is HbA, which is homozygous dominant, then the person will have normal hemoglobin. Hb stands for hemoglobin, and this genotype is, if it is homozygous dominant, normal hemoglobin will be formed. The person will not have sickle cell anemia and he will lead a normal life. But if it is, the person is having HbA, HbS in heterozygous condition, this person is believed to be a carrier for sickle cell anemia. This person will have little or mild anemic condition because their cells become sickle cell trait. Of course, but this person does not die. But as this is a recessive gene, if the genotype of the person is homozygous recessive, HbS, HbS, then 100% the person will develop sickle cell anemia, the shape of the hemoglobin will change, hypoxic condition, due to anemic condition, the child will die. So it is a lethal gene. Okay, now let us see its inheritance pattern. Now suppose two person, we are considering parents, they are sickle cell carriers. If they are carriers, they are heterozygotes, isn't it? So HbS, HbA, HbS, HbA. They are marrying with each other. What will be the gametes produced? Here the gametes will be HbS, HbA. Here the gametes produced will be HbS, HbA. The offsprings produced in F1 generation, if you see, HbS, HbS, homozygous recessive. Obviously, what will happen to this child? He is suffering from sickle cell and he dies because it is a lethal gene. If the child gets HbA and HbA, it is a case of homozygous, it should be HbS, HbA. Heterozygous condition is there, and this heterozygous condition, these people, they are sickle cell carriers. And how many are they? 1 and 2. So this 2. And one case we'll see that if HbA comes with HbA, it is a homozygous normal. He doesn't have sickle cell trait, and this is 1. So see how it deviated from the normal Mendelian ratio. According to Mendel, the normal ratio should be 3:1, but here it is 2:1, and here one gene is controlling many traits, pleiotropy. So this is neo-Mendelism, going away from the conclusions which Mendel gave. I hope you followed. So it is a marriage between two sickle cell carriers. It will produce one normal. This was the normal one having homozygous dominant HbA, HbA. Two are carriers which are heterozygous HbS, HbA, and one will be having sickle cell anemia, lethal gene, and this child will die, which is having homozygous recessive gene HbS, HbS. So I hope you understood the concept of pleiotropy and how it is one gene is affecting more than one trait. Sickle cell anemia. A long question can be asked for 3 marks on this part, or an MCQ can be asked on the phenotype, genotype. So prepare this, practice this chart again and again. Now let us proceed. Now I am going to start with structure of chromosomes. Now chromosomes, chromo colored, soma body. They are called as colored bodies because they get stained with dyes. These chromosomes are thread-like structures. They are made up of nucleic acids. They are having proteins and they are found in nucleus of most of the eukaryotic cells. So these colored bodies, thread-like structures made up of nucleic acid and protein found in nucleus of eukaryotic cell. Eukaryotic having a well-developed, well-defined nucleus. What do they carry? They carry genetic information in the form of genes. The term was coined by W. Waldeyer. Very important. Learn it by heart again and again. Can be asked for MCQ. So the term chromosome was coined by W. Waldeyer in 1888. Size varies from species to species. It can be from 0.1 to 0.33 micrometer in length to 0.2 to 2 micrometer in thickness. So the size of the chromosome, the length of the chromosome is different, and even in the number of chromosome is different from species to species. Chromosomes in human beings can be divided into two types. We have autosomes, which are also called as the body chromosomes, and we have the allosomes, which are also called as the sex chromosome. This is again important, students. Our chromosomes are categorized into two groups, autosomes and allosomes. We have 22 pairs of autosomes, that is 44, and we have one pair of allosome, that is sex chromosome. And of course, you know the difference of allosomes between a male and a female. So in human, each cell, any cell of your body, it contains 23 pairs of chromosomes. 23 pairs means how many in total? 46 chromosomes. 22 of these pairs are autosomes, responsible for somatic characters, body characters. They look the same in both and females. They are similar. These 22 pairs are similar in males and females, and usually we write them as like this: 22 autosome, 22 pairs of autosomes. They are similar in males and females. The 23rd pair, the sex chromosome, the allosome, it is different in male and female. In males, it is XY, and in females, it is XX. Now, let us see the typical structure of a chromosome. You can go through this picture. I have taken this picture from your textbook itself. So, we'll begin. Chromosome consists of two identical, matlab similar, spirally coiled, which are coiled threads, which are called as sister chromatids. You can look at this picture. This is a chromatid. This is a chromatid. If you look under the microscope, you will see that they are made up of spirally coiled structures. And these spirally coiled structures, thread-like structures, are called as sister chromatid. So this and this, they are sister chromatids of each other. They are joined at the centromere. This region is called as the centromere. It is also called as primary constriction. So they are joined at the centromere like this. Okay. Each centromere, it is having a disc-shaped structure. On this, I'll show it with some other color. We'll show it with green color. There is a disc-like structure on the centromere, and this disc-like structure present on the centromere, it is called as kinetochore. What is the function of kinetochore? It provides space for attachment of spindle fibers during cell division. You have studied mitosis, meiosis in 11th standard. You know that how chromosomes are pulled apart during anaphase. And the spindle fibers, they attach to these kinetochores and pull the sister chromatids apart during cell division. Depending on number of centromere, chromosomes can be monocentric, dicentric or polycentric. If you look at the second picture, you will see there is here one primary constriction, which is centromere 1, which will have this kinetochore, okay, and where the sister chromatids are attached. You can see there is one more secondary constriction at the bottom and one more secondary constriction. So there are more constrictions. When there are more constriction, it will be when there is single monocentric, two centromeres dicentric, many centromeres polycentric. So I hope you understood. Now in this chromosome, the secondary constriction, above it there is a region which is called as satellite. Okay, this is the satellite. This secondary constriction is also called as nucleolar organizer because it helps or takes important role, plays important role in synthesis of nucleolus. I hope you know what is a nucleus. This is a cell. This is nucleus. This is nucleolus, and these are the chromosomes. So the satellite chromosomes, just near the SAT chromosomes, there is a secondary constriction. It is associated with synthesis of nucleolus. Important function. You should know. What is the function of kinetochore? Providing space for attachment of spindle fibers. What is the function of secondary constriction, which is also called as nuclear organizer? It plays important role in synthesis of nucleolus. Let us proceed. Each chromatid is made of 2 to 4 or 8 thread-like structure, which are called as chromonemata. Further, the chromosome is made up of, so each chromatid, this was one chromatid, this one, second, three. This is internally again made up of coiled thread-like structures, which are called as chromonemata. What is the chromonemata made up of? We know the nucleosome structure. It is made up of DNA and a protein coat, histone proteins. It is darkly stained network of chromatin fibers having two regions. This picture is very nice. You can see here, there are two types of regions. One region is darkly stained, other is lightly stained. Okay. The genetically active euchromatin and the condensed transcriptionally inactive heterochromatin is present. You can see in this picture, this is euchromatin. What is euchromatin? It is little bit lightly stained. It is genetically active. It will participate in protein synthesis. Whereas the heterochromatin, the other region, you can see this which is stained with orange color. It is inactive part. Okay. So I hope you understood the two regions of chromosome, euchromatin, heterochromatin. Euchromatin is active region. Heterochromatin is inactive in transcription. It has some other functions, other roles. Usually chromosomes are stained by basic Fulgen stains because chromosome, it is a nucleic acid, it is made up of acid. So Fulgen stain, basic stains are used. I told you about SAT chromosome having satellite, having secondary constriction, which plays important role in synthesis of nucleolus, which is also called as nucleolar organizing region. How many chromosomes are having this nucleolar organizing region? Only chromosome number 13, 14, 15, 21, 22. Only autosome number 13, 14, 15, 21 and 22 are SAT chromosomes having nucleolar organizer region, which will play important role in synthesizing the nucleolus. All autosomes or all chromosomes are not having the SAT chromosome. I hope you are getting these points clear. Are chromosomes visible all the time? No. Chromosomes are visible only during cell division. I hope you remember the cell cycle you studied last year. Cell cycle, it consists of M phase and then it consists of a very big interphase, and this interphase is then divided into G1 growth phase, synthetic phase, S phase and G2 phase. During this interphase, chromosomes are not visible. Chromosomes are visible only during M phase. In M phase also, in prophase, they are not visible. They are a form of chromatin fibers. They will be visible after prophase, that is metaphase, anaphase, telophase. And you might have performed an experiment last year where you studied the onion root tip cells, where you studied mitotic divisions and you have seen the chromosomes. Always remember, students, chromosomes are visible only during cell division. That to which phases? Metaphase, anaphase and telophase. Especially very clearly visible in metaphase and anaphase. Otherwise, in prophase, they are in the form of chromatin network, and even here in interphase, they are not visible. They are capable of self-replication. They can self-replicate and they play a very important role in heredity. You know, you are like your parents. Somebody might be like mother, somebody like maybe like father, somebody might be like grandmother or grandparents, anybody. This is because of our genes which we get through our chromosomes. They play important role in mutation. Sometimes our gene mutate, and where are these genes located? They are located on chromosome. They bring about variation, and if variation occurs, it will lead to evolution. So I hope you are getting this. One more thing I would like to tell, if you see this structure of chromosome, this upper part, it is sometimes called as P arm, which is present above the centromere, and the lower is called as the Q arm. These two chromosomes, these two branches, or we can say these two chromatids which are present in the same chromosome are sister chromatids, but this chromosome, suppose I call it A, this chromosome, suppose I call it B. A and B, they are homologous chromosomes, it is a homologous pair, and the branches or the chromatids of the homologous pair, they are called as non-sister chromatids. You should be clear about this too. These two are sister chromatids, but these two are non-sister chromatids. Centromere, primary constriction, kinetic core, we have already discussed. Euchromatin, active region, heterochromatin, inactive for transcription. Of course, it has some other functions. So this is all about the structure. Now let us see the types of chromosomes on basis of position of centromere. Very important, can be asked for MCQ, one-line question, diagram for 2 marks, match the pair. So listen carefully, and it is very simple. You know now what is centromere. Centromere is that primary constriction where the chromatids are attached. Now the position of this centromere, it varies. So there are 4 types of chromosomes. First is telocentric. Look at this picture. Telocentric. The centromere is at the tip. It is at the tip, and so only one arm is seen. It is I-shaped chromosome. Listen students carefully. I-shaped chromosome is telocentric. Centromere is at the tip, at the end. Only one arm is there. Acrocentric. The centromere is towards the end. Very important. Near the end, not at the end. Therefore, it appears J-shaped. And such type of chromosome, it is called as acrocentric chromosome. The next type is submetacentric. The centromere is towards the center. These words are important because in MCQ they will be using these words only. When it is towards the center, it appears L-shaped. Look at this picture, L. Okay, one arm is short, one arm is long, and this is called as submetacentric. Whereas the 4th type is metacentric. The centromere is at the exact center. The 2 arms are equal and it appears V-shaped. Thus, this is metacentric. So, the 4 types of chromosomes depending on the basis of position of centromere are telocentric, I-shaped, centromere at the end, acrocentric, J-shaped, centromere towards the end, submetacentric, L-shaped, centromere towards the center, metacentric, V-shaped, centromere at the center. Diagrams can be asked, match the pairs, MCQs, one line. So please draw this and practice it. Now further we'll go and study difference between X and Y chromosome. X chromosome, we know that females have XX chromosome, males have XY chromosome. So what is the difference between X and Y chromosome? X chromosome is comparatively longer. So suppose this is a centromere and it is comparatively longer. Y chromosome, I will draw it here, it is comparatively shorter. First difference. Second, X chromosome, it is metacentric. See, V-shaped. Both the arms are equal and the centromere is at the center, whereas Y chromosome is acrocentric. Can be asked in MCQ. Remember carefully. X chromosome has larger amount of euchromatin. So it is more active, genetically more active, will participate in more transcription, more protein formation. Whereas Y chromosome has lesser amount of euchromatin. So it is genetically less active. X chromosome carries sex-linked genes on the non-homologous part of sex-linked genes. Let us see. This upper part of the X chromosome and upper part of the Y chromosome, this is called as the non-homologous part because the genes vary in this region. Whereas I'll draw it with other color. Let us see, this part is homologous part. So this part is homologous part. Listen carefully. The genes that are located on the non-homologous part of X chromosome here, they are called as sex-linked genes. Okay, and the genes that are present on the non-homologous part of the Y chromosomes are called as Hollandric genes. These are Hollandric genes. Usually, sex-linked genes, they show crisscross inheritance. Crisscross, in one generation it will be with the mother, then it is given to the son, then to son's daughter, so we'll call it as granddaughter. So crisscross inheritance, but Hollandric genes, they show straight inheritance. Father will give the genes to the son because only males have Y chromosomes, but X chromosomes are both present in both males and females. So students, 2 marks question can be asked on this topic. Differentiate between X and Y chromosome. Look at this picture again. I have taken it from your textbook. So this is X chromosome, this is Y chromosome. This is metacentric, acrocentric. Genetically more active, less active. Upper region, non-homologous part. Here it is carrying sex-linked genes. Here it is carrying Hollandric genes. So I'll write just H, Hollandric genes, sex-linked genes. Hollandric gene shows straight inheritance, father to son. Sex-linked gene shows crisscross inheritance, mother to son, from son to granddaughter, again granddaughter to her son, great-great-grandson. So crisscross inheritance. And this lower region, it is homologous, similar type of genes are present. So I hope you understood. Difference between X and Y chromosome diagram can also be asked. Let us now proceed with autosomal inheritance. You know now what are autosomes? The chromosomes which are responsible for body characters are autosomes. They also control a variety of traits but not sex trait, body characters. These traits are called as autosomal traits and their inheritance is called as autosomal inheritance. Some characters are influenced by dominant genes while others are recessive. Let us see autosomal dominant in inheritance. 2 examples, widow's peak and rolling tongue. Now we are going to discuss only about widow's peak. Autosomal recessive inheritance include phenylketonuria, cystic fibrosis and sickle cell anemia. I have already taught you about sickle cell anemia. Let us see about widow's peak. It is a V-shaped hairline present on the forehead. It is determined by autosomal dominant gene. It is just a character, students. It is not a disease. Widow's peak occurs in homozygous condition. If you are having capital W condition or heterozygous capital W, small w condition, then you will have widow's peak. But if you are having a recessive homozygous gene, small w, you will have a straight hairline pattern. Both males and females have equal chances of inheritance. So you can see this lady, this person is having widow's peak. So it might be having homozygous or heterozygous condition. Here it is having a straight hairline. It is not a disease. It is just a routine character. So these characters, they are inherited by autosomes. They are dominant genes. So it is autosomal dominant inheritance. There is one more example, rolling tongue, which I'll teach you in next lecture. So I hope you understood widow's peak. Yes, students. So now today we discuss 3 important concepts. Pleiotropy. In pleiotropy, in detail, I taught you about sickle cell anemia, its inheritance. Then we studied the structure of a chromosome, typical chromosome. We studied about SAT chromosomes. We studied about 4 types of chromosomes depending upon position of centromere. We distinguished between X and Y chromosome. And finally, we started with autosomal inheritance where we studied about widow's peak. I hope you have understood all the points. Please revise it once again. Thank you.